So, do the Seahawks have a locker room problem? This is something that a lot of media outlets have been talking about recently. Colin Cowherd talked about it yesterday. Undisputed talked about it. I think First Take talked about it a week ago or something like that. And a lot of it was because of Michael Bennett coming out, and he said some cryptic things about Russell Wilson, and then he said some amazing things about Colin Kaepernick, and there's like some things going on that you might think that maybe there's some locker room trouble. And the real reason I wanted to make this video is because there was just an article published recently on ESPN that I actually kind of wanted to share with you guys and read a little bit of it to you. It was written by Seth Wickersham, I believe his name is. I hope I'm spelling his name right. I have no idea. And I just want to read some parts. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It might take about maybe 4 to 5 minutes for me to read to you what I want to read. But I think this is important because when I was reading this, I was like, holy crap, I didn't even realize some of this. I mean, I knew that after he won the Super Bowl against the Broncos, I knew in that training camp some tempers got high and stuff, but I didn't know some of this stuff happened. And there was some stuff that happened last year, a lot of it involving Richard Sherman, and I had no idea about any of this stuff. And maybe you guys didn't too, so this might be insightful for some of you guys as well. So I'm gonna start reading, and like I said, it might take 4 to 5 minutes, but I think if you're a Seahawks fan, you'll really enjoy this. So, Richard Sherman wanted to send a message to Russell Wilson. It was June 2014, and it had been a testy day at Seahawks minicamp, with defensive players hitting the offense in a non-contact practice. One day, Sherman had ripped off the helmet and jersey of a receiver, Phil Bates, igniting a brawl, the cornerback's dreadlocks flopping in the air, both sides cleared. Pharrell Williams happy, blasting in the loudspeakers in the background. Obviously, a lot of us, that's what I was talking about just recently. A lot of us already know about that. Sherman is famous for loving practice, for treating it even like a game, and for rarely missing it even when injured. For him, it's where a mystical bond is forged, and a win on Sunday becomes an almost accidental byproduct. And so a few plays later, when Sherman picked off Wilson, it wasn't enough just to make a great play. He wanted to get inside Wilson's head, to remind the young Pro Bowler that despite his Super Bowl fame and endorsements that many on the defense felt they deserved, Sherman still owned his ass. Sherman yelled, "You effing suck," Sherman to quarterback Russell Wilson. According to witnesses, Sherman threw the ball right back to Wilson and yelled, "You effing suck." And obviously he didn't say effing, though. And he started yelling. Wilson seemed stunned, and Pete Carroll stopped practice and would later hold a series of meetings to remind players that they need to build each other up and not tear each other down. At the time, of course, nobody wore the scars they do now. Nobody knew the pain of losing Super Bowl at the 1-yard line yet. Nobody could have predicted the strangest storyline from the 2017 offseason. Sherman, a future Hall of Famer in his prime, open to a trade, and the Seahawks open to shipping him. Tensions lurked beneath the surface, but the Seahawks were building something special on an ascent toward limitless future. The next day, the Seahawks got their Super Bowl rings. 4 phrases were engraved inside. The last one read, "What's next?" And you know what happens next. With 20 seconds left and Super Bowl 49 on second and goal from the 1-yard line, Patriots corner Malcolm Butler jumped a route like nobody had ever jumped a route in the game's biggest stage. That moment haunts the Seahawks to this day. If Russ had just thrown it low and away, one Seahawks staffer says, if we had just executed the play, it would have been the easiest touchdown in history, says a former assistant coach. Nothing that's happened since, not the Seahawks twice reaching the divisional round of the playoffs before running into Cam Newton and Matt Ryan, not even Wilson developing into a franchise quarterback, not the defense becoming the first since the 1950s Browns to lead the league in points allowed for 4 straight years has brought anything near closure. If the hardest thing in football is to manage a celebrity that attends a Super Bowl win, the next hardest thing is to forget a catastrophic Super Bowl loss. Something complicated and vital to the chemistry of a great team was broken in that interception. According to interviews with numerous current and former Seahawks players, coaches, and staffers, few have taken it harder than Richard Sherman. He has told teammates and friends that he believes the Seahawks should have won multiple Super Bowls by now, and with just one trophy and the window closing fast, he has placed responsibility for that failing on the 2 faces of the franchise, Wilson and Carroll. Sherman, who like Wilson declined comment for this story, thinks Carroll hasn't held Wilson or many young Seahawks to the defensive championship standard. He's been delusioned by not only that single play more than 2 years earlier, but also by his coaches and quarterback's response to it. If we had just executed that play, it would have been the easiest touchdown in history, another Seahawks assistant coach said. "You got me coming off the practice field, and I'm really pissed off," Carroll said from his office overlooking Lake Washington after a May minicamp. "I worked up a lot of energy, and I'm really pissed off." He pauses, inhales, exhales. Okay, now let's have a nice conversation. Obviously, in mid-March, word emerged that Sherman was available for a trade. Normally, a team would try to squash such a bombshell involving an iconic player by beloved fans, but general manager John Schneider later admitted that the team was taking the calls, and Carroll had been usually blunt, saying that the league meetings that many Sherman's let me read that again. And Carroll had unusually blunt, saying the way that's worded is really bad. Anyway, he's trying to say that Carroll and Schneider were being really blunt about it and just saying, yeah, he's on the trade table. The way that was phrased there was really bad. No trade materialized, obviously, and Sherman is now back at his usual spot at left corner. Carroll seems refreshed and energized by this year, may test the powers and limits of his coaching style. Of course, my dog starts barking in the middle of this video. So we go down a little bit. And basically, tension flared at strange times last season, blowing little issues into big ones. Hold on, let me pause this video real quick. This is done. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, tensions flared at strange times last season, blowing little issues into big ones. One day, Sherman walked into a team meeting and found rookie guard Jermaine Ifedi sitting at a desk. That's a no-no. Rookies sit on the floor. Veterans get the desks. Sherman loaded over him, but Ifedi did what Sherman might have done as a rookie. He stayed at the desk. Finally, Sherman broke. Get up. Ifedi stood up and knocked over the desk, tossing it aside. The 6'5", 325-pound Ifedi stared at the 6'3", 195-pound Sherman. I wonder who would have won that fight. As if ready to throw down. Ifedi eventually stepped aside, but Sherman later told friends that he saw the incident as an emblematic of a bigger problem. The offense led by Wilson was in the midst of a season in which it would score fewer than 13 points 5 games, but the only players being held to the lofty standard created by the defense were the members of it. Sherman, of course, is the face of the defense that stands out in the free agency era, having been assembled in a run of straight flush drafts and heralded free agent signings that allowed players to bond like a college crew. They were underdogs together. They became great together. They changed a franchise together. They got paid together. They won a Super Bowl together and lost one together. They shared an ambition for excellence, impossible to articulate, but as palpable as the hits they delivered in practice. They'd warred with offenses. Some of the stuff the guy's saying here is just kind of, I don't know if he edited this right way. They go to war with offenses, both opposing and their own, and often with one another. Free agents who sign with the Seahawks are always shocked at how savage the locker room can be, a violence at odds with Carroll's laid-back persona. And the other thing, I'm going to skip down here a little quick. Like I said, I'm not going to read everything. He basically goes on, I'm not able to see, I'll leave a link to this in the description if you guys want to read the whole thing. It's a long article. I'm not able to find it right here right now, but basically Sherman also, they think that obviously when the Seahawks lose, they have what they like to tell like Truth Mondays, right? Where you go in after you lose a game, or and you kind of just like lay it out on the table. What do you think happened? But I guess some players have joked about calling it Truth to Certain People Mondays because they think that Russell Wilson is basically you're not able to criticize Russell Wilson. Apparently, there's some sort of and a lot of the offensive members, I guess too. There's a culture where I guess. Criticizing Wilson is not allowed, and to me that's actually really bad. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but if that's what Seahawks players and stuff are saying, I don't know, I guess you believe them, right? And so for me, I guess it all comes down to the Seahawks have a culture problem, and this is the other reason I didn't really talk about it in my Should the Seahawks Sign Kaepernick video. I kind of left it out. But after reading this article, I think it's something to talk about. And this is another reason I don't want the Seahawks taking Kaepernick, because of what Michael Bennett said when he's talking about, oh, well, Russell Wilson is this and that, and obviously some Seahawks players have come out in the past and said Russell Wilson's not black enough, which I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. And they're talking about how we love Colin Kaepernick, and then I feel like if you bring in Colin Kaepernick, it's going to cause distraction not only with the media and everything, but a distraction in that locker room. Now, Russell Wilson has come out and said that he doesn't mind if the Seahawks sign Kaepernick. He has come out and said that, or his agent said that for him, whatever it was. But still, I feel like after reading this article and everything, this is just another reason I do not want the Seahawks to bring in Colin Kaepernick. I don't want it to add anything. I really want this season to be as distraction-free as possible for the Seahawks. And like I said, I'm going to put this article in the description below. I really think you guys should take a look at it. I only read like maybe 20-25% of it. It's a long article. There's a lot of really cool, insightful stuff in it. And it's, it was written really well. So I really do think you guys should check it out. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think the Seahawks have a locker room problem? What do you think about Richard Sherman? What do you think about Russell Wilson? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you all for watching the video, and go Hawks.